I hope that every one of you can see the presentation.
Yes, we can see it.
Awesome. Thank you. What exactly is corporate governance? So corporate governance has a few elements around it. When we really think about corporate governance, as I said, a lot of times people opine that this is something that applies to big organizations. But that is a fallacy because corporate governance applies to Njogu and associate advocates. As the managing partner of this organization, there are certain requirements that I must do to ensure that this organization runs in a manner and structure that allows it to have what we call business continuity. So business continuity normally means that even if today I step out for the next 30 days, that does not mean Njogu and Associate either collapses or decisions are not being made or the customers are not being, our clients are not being catered to. It means it has allowed us to move in a way that the business can actually even operate without my particular presence or my partner's presence. They don't need to be here for this organization to do that. When we look at the bigger umbrella of corporate governance, a few things come into mind. Number one, Number one, the decision-making elements. What is the hierarchy of decisions? I'm bestowed the privilege of being the managing partner of this organization. So what decisions lie with me? What decisions can my administrator make? What decisions can Esther make as an advocate in this organization? What decisions do my legal clerk have to do so that this organization can continue? What decisions for our internal pupils, those are legal interns in a legal capacity, what can they do so that at the end of the day that this organization may move forward? So it means that there is a hierarchical way of decision-making processes within the organization. And of course, moving down the line, we're going to see that also this applies the fact that there must be something documented. As I said, if I want to step away for the next 30 days, I can't step away if I've not left a clear way of how decisions are going to be made within the organization. Another element of corporate governance is the issue of money control. Interestingly, I think about 2 weeks ago, we were in a business workshop, courtesy of my bank, and the conversation was about tax. So before we got to the tax, we needed to understand the office kitty. How does that look like? Who is in charge of the office pass? Nani ako na hizo funguo? What happens if a person has emergencies? Does the owner of the business touch the kitty? If not, and if you do that, what exactly is the terminology that is used to do that? And I think looking at the crowd, when the presenter told us about office drawings, somebody was like, but if I have an emergency, I can just touch the office kitty. And a lot of people were actually asked, do you cater to yourself from a salary perspective when it comes to your business? And true, very unfortunately, most entrepreneurs don't have a salary within the organization. The cash that is in the business accounts, you dip your hands into it, and then you deal with your emergency, whatever that looks like, whether that looks like school fees, whether that looks like a hospital running, you just dip your hands into that. So when we talk about money controls, starting from the head, like they say, the rotting starts from the head, starting from the head, is Muthoni picking up from that kitty without controls, without safeguards, without understanding that when we get out to the CR12, Muthoni and the business are two separate entities, so that the law firm can be sued, enter into a contract and all that, and it has nothing to do with Muthoni as an individual. So money control becomes one of the elements where we talk about corporate governance, and especially from a small and medium enterprise. It does not mean that this doesn't apply to other organizations. If you are a nano micro entrepreneur, this as well applies to you. And then also we look at the bigger picture of risk management. So what kind of risks are going to come to the business when you are ensuring that there are corporate governance, toolkit around your organization? Risk could look like legal risk. Legal risk meaning either you have been fined somewhere, either you've been taken to court somewhere, either you fired someone on an irregular basis. Risk could also mean reputational risk. such that your business in a way and format, either something happened and then there's all these reputational issues that are coming along with it. And you know what happens, and especially in Kenya, where we see social media can actually break or kill you. Can actually either break or elevate your business to the next level. I don't know whether you remember the lady from Nakuru when she came to the TV and she was saying that she doesn't have business. I think she had set up a hotel business. That was last year, I think in November. But when she came to social media and cried, the next minute all we could see was people that are flooding into that particular hotel. So risk could have many colors. It could have various forms or shapes depending on your business. And then also now, when we again look at the umbrella of corporate governance, we also look at the accountability enforcement. So who is responsible for what? We always say, where does the buck stop? So that if, for instance, the accountant for some instance did not pay the statutories by the 9th of every month or VAT by the 20th of every month, who are we going to hold accountable for some of these things, and also what are their limits? What is the budget for, let's say, petty cash in your organization that this person can touch? What are those other money engagements that probably I, as Muthoni, am the only one who can touch? When it comes to client facing, there's some certain elements about money it's only me who can touch, or it's only a partner in the organization that can touch. So really understanding what are the accountability measures within the organization. So based on that, I want to stop sharing just a little bit and ask a question at this particular point. When we now talk about the elements of corporate governance, have you had as if any of those things that we have spoken about, do they apply to your organization? And as I said, this is more of a conversation rather than where we are just speaking from a one-sided perspective. So I'd really love to hear your voice. Just drop something on the chat session. The chat session is on your screen, or you can kindly unmute yourself so that we see some of these things that we're talking about. Have they happened in your business? Have you had to a point where you don't even have a salary, etc.? Let's learn, ladies and gentlemen. Let's learn together. I have just muted this so that at least we can have an engaging interaction. And I don't want to use my sword, but perhaps Lydia, you can tell us something, whether this already resonates or it doesn't. Lydia Mwangi?
Hi, can you
Hello.
hear me?
Yes, we can, loud and clear.
Yeah, sorry, I can't put my video. I'm driving and there are cops around me, so I'm doing something illegal.
For sure.
What you have said resonates because, Muthoni, to be quite honest, I don't earn a salary. I think the last time I earned a salary was the same time you were employed with you. So I'm at that point where I need to restructure my business to be able to earn money and pay me a salary. 5 years. So this 5 years and this it's really timely. Yes, I haven't earned a salary in the past 6 years.
But you've been surviving. So where are you getting the bread and butter?
Let me tell you, the bread and butter is whenever a client when I get clients, I earn from my legal fees. So actually, I don't pay myself. I just do what needs to be done. Pay rent, fuel the car, pay insurance, Yes, as you have said, when I'm unwell, I tap into that office kitty and I do that. And at times I have had to fork my own money, most of it from my savings account.
Oh my. I think the webinar is quite timely.
Very timely, especially for me, super timely. It is.
Thank you so much, Lydia.
So thank you so much for this.
Thank you as well. I want to throw this question. Thomas, is this the scenario? I can see that we're all in the legal profession together. Is this the scenario that has been happening? Have you managed to completely have proper demarcation for the office kitty and yourself, pay yourself a salary? Have you managed to do that? Thomas? I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
Thank you.
Highly apologize.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mudhoni.
Yes.
I personally, mine is a startup. I just recently started my law firm, so I'm still trying to foot into the profession now as a practitioner. I hope this forum now will give me the roadmap on how to organize myself and manage my office and yeah, especially the money control part. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, we want to dip into the office kitty quite a lot. Rotarian Arthur Baira, I think that's how you say it. Arthur Rotarian, I think my RTN is Rotarian. I want to close it with you. What are your thoughts? Arthur, are you with us or you can't speak? John, perhaps we can hear from you as we wait for Arthur. Maybe he's on the road or he can't hear us.
Yes, thank you. For me, it's charged. I'm guilty as charged. Yeah? So it's the same thing. It's a new business, but I'm learning how to separate things from the bank account. Have a personal and a business one. Then anything related to business, I try to get it from there. It's work in progress. I'm not yet there. I'm also doing this for compliance reasons. If Kerry came and asked me questions, I can be able to tell them this is what has come in from the business side. This is personal. So I'm learning. I'm getting there. But yes, it's very necessary to demarcate the two. Thank you.
I think we are all in agreement that there needs to be what we call a divorce between our monies, our personal monies, and the business money. In fact, I think one of the things that came out very strongly during that workshop that I attended was the fact that even as we dip into the office money, you know very well that your needs, your own personal needs, because the business is supposed to cater to your labor. Your own personal needs, let's say you need fuel for your car, you need, what else? You need fuel, you need insurance paid and all that. Those are expenses you can actually just get them from the business. So I have been a bit fortunate. The business has been running for a while now, and I think these workshops have helped just to try and have a proper demarcation. Nonetheless, let's move. Let's move again just to share this. Just to share this again. Good. So just to sum it up, when we think about corporate governance, there are certain elements that really come into the fore. And one of the things I say, like even the Kenyan, the Kenyan law is one of the laws that if I look at the national laws, the Constitution of Kenya, Chapter 6 of the Constitution, if I look at all these other laws that come around with it, like the leadership and integrity, I don't know, we have the conflict of interest bill. Basically, Kenyans, we like to, make the law, I don't know, is it morals and all manner of things, let me call it that, because sometimes when we have a whole law that is talking about integrity and then you see things are happening on the flip side, you want to question yourself. So there must be a lot of integrity within how you run your own business. When I send let's say I have somebody I need to send mandazi outside from the office, I know that if they start telling me they have put that in the office petty cash, I will raise an uproar and say, no, that 40 shillings was supposed to be from my own pocket because I already earn a salary. So am I integrous enough to completely, and even if we are trying to, put the law here, at the end of the day, it still boils down to some level of values that you have, that you're integrous enough to know that we need to market the two. Another principle of corporate governance is basically transparency and disclosure. And I think this also comes to what we've talked about, integrity. Am I transparent enough? And like what I think when John has said, if KRA is coming, what am I supposed to be telling them? Before the e-teams, there are some things that probably we could run away with. I think e-teams when it came about, I think in the year 2023, I think that was a Finance Act, that for every expense, there must be a commensurate ETIMS receipt, which now in fact will have a lot of filing issues coming towards this financial year. Kitambo, we could just throw in a lot of receipts, and there is, of course, the dichotomy of tax evasion, tax avoidance, and all that. But were we transparent enough? And I keep saying transparency is not for purposes of KRA. Transparency is for you to be transparent with your business at the end of the day, because it doesn't make sense to operate within a business if you're not growing, if you're not breaking even, or if you're not making some profit. So are you transparent enough? Do you exercise disclosure within your own organization? Of course, compliance with the law and guidelines, that cannot be gainsaid. Accountability, as I said earlier on, and responsibility. Who do we hold responsible for what in the organization? So the reality qua ground, this is the reality. You have a duty as an SME owner to act in good faith, taking all the principles of corporate governance. As I said, the business ni wewe na biashara. Even before you start saying KRA, even before you start doing, even before you start anything else, it's a question of, do you act in good faith as a person? I think one of the things that we keep hearing, that entrepreneurs are very strong people and they're very prayerful. So hopefully that these principles of some religion that you subscribe to allows you to act in good faith. And then one of the other key duties is exercising reasonable care. Do you avoid conflict of interest? And this we have seen a lot in very big organizations, where I think there was a time when Uchumi, one of the directors, was actually alikuwa anatumia another company to supply to Uchumi and all manner of things. In your own organization, is it that you have given one of your relatives part to supply within your own business, yet biashara ni yako? And I think we saw a lot of that in the Nakumat cases. And then also, are you able to manage the company assets well? Are you acting in the best interest of the company? So the moment you appeared in the CR12, you became liable, not personally, you became liable to ensure that all these duties you have done justice to them. So before we get to the quiz, I just want to understand. We used to hear a lot in the what were they called cases? I think when the former cabinet secretary Anwar Group, and we used to hear a lot of the backstops with this. I think she was a CS at the point. When mistakes happen in your business, so the 9th of the month has gotten to that particular time, taxes have not been paid. Who is going to bear these responsibilities? Is it you or the accountant? That becomes the question. So it is imperative that we understand that the responsibility of the biashara belongs to us. So we would go into all the challenges, but I don't want to focus on that. And when we now look at the governance failures, what kills SMEs? And as I said, it's not just SMEs, it's also the nano micro entrepreneurs. What kills our businesses? Number one, a poor decision structure. Can I walk out for 30 days? 30 good days, can I walk out? From a legal perspective, we will see, how do I actually have a minimum viable governance toolkit, so that at the end of the day, it can give me some way to understand what is the structure of this organization. That means that there is an approval hierarchy. That means that there is recording of major decisions. And I say this because if I am to step out, it means that there are standard operating procedures. So you, as I've had two people who have said here, they're already starting their business. If somebody was to step into your business today and you said, I'm going off, I think John and Thomas, I'm going off for the next 2 days, would they find where to go? It's you, we have employed you, go sit there at the corner and then start working. They don't have a standard way of operating. They don't know you, chini, but they have been told, sit there and I'm giving you the work. For me as an entrepreneur is to sit down and just note those small notes. When we talk to the customer, then at this particular point, we give the customer, like now from a legal perspective, let me give what the law firm does. Once we've done all the conversations with the customer, we are now about to onboard the customer, then we give the client a client engagement letter. We have already done the fee notes, we have discussed. If we have discounted, we have discounted. Now we are at the point where we are now going to get into a letter of engagement. Does an advocate who is onboarding in Jogo and Associates know that this is actually the procedure that is supposed to happen? Can I record that? I just small knows that I call my standard operating procedures. If there is an inquiry into the office, what is the pathway that this inquiry is supposed to follow? You know, when you're starting off, my good friend Thomas, when you're starting off, you are the everything. You are the everything, you are the advocate, you are probably part of the, you know, client management is entirely yours. You're the one who's going to look for the customer, so BD is on your desk and everything. But if somebody just stepped in to assist that role, part of your roles, can they find a standard operating procedures? And this is something you just keep improving day by day so that you understand that if I stepped out a bit, this person can actually, you know, stand in for me. I don't have to be there. Again, another issue when it comes to to corporate governance is lack of cash visibility, is what we said. We are dipping. Sometimes the business will not pay us what probably Lydia and I were getting in our former employer. It will not pay us. But at the end of the day, I'll say my salary is 60,000. The business is able to pay for me my insurance cover. The business is also able to fuel for me, because all those are expenses that can be attached to the business. The business is also it also gives an element of school fees for the children, so that you can actually see from an outlook of your business, this is exactly where the money actually goes. But I think when I look at my salary back then and I say, this business of mine cannot pay me this much. But you see, I've said some of your expenses can be attached to the business. Because if you don't do that, then you'll not have a clear map of where exactly does the money in your business go, if you're not able to pay yourself the full salary where you are able to be paid elsewhere. And then at the end of the day, we remember during COVID, everything shut down. In March 2020, did we have an emergency reserve? Because there was no business. At that particular point, if I take the law firm, for instance, business shut down, the courts shut down, so money was not incoming. So basically from around 8th, I think it was March, all the way to about December, things were running very, very, very slow. Clients were on and off. In fact, the first 3 months after COVID, we basically did not serve anybody. We didn't serve anybody, because you see now it's a question of, is it life or is it legal? So we might as well, you know, secure our bread and butter for life as opposed to paying legal fees. Sasa hapo Muthoni ataumia. But then I ask myself, did I have an emergency reserve? Would I have been able to pay up if I had my staff members? Would I have managed to pay up my staff members? So again, setting some money aside for a rainy day. Conflict of interest. I think I've already talked about this. Is it your relatives that are coming to provide services in your organization? Nothing wrong with that, but how do you handle that? How do you handle that? And I keep saying, what you teach your people within the company, because whether those are 2 people in the company or 1 person in the company, they're already looking up to you that it's okay to bring my cousin to do that. So even them, they'll probably bring another cousin. Nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, there is a perception that you create and a conflict of interest, so that we are not hiring for purposes of competence. We are hiring for purposes of familiar blood type. And then again, in terms of governance, you have ignorance in terms of the law and regulations. I cannot practice without a practicing certificate. I can't do that, as we don't pay the Nairobi County government. We pay a practicing certificate. I cannot do that. And within my own business, can I map out an audit within my organization? And I like to say this, that as a small, medium enterprise, you're thinking, but Muthoni, I don't have time to do all those things. Because I've gone for a lot of workshops where we are mingling with other organizations. And you hear the person saying, I don't have time to do some of these things. I don't have time to write the standard operating procedures. I don't have time to do that. But then also the flip side is we also create some leakages. We create some leakages where either we are going to be fined. One of your staff members decided to send a client an SMS message, and before you know it, you have an ODPC penalty that has been pronounced on you, again affecting your bottom line. Lastly, lack of accountability. There are many lack of accountability, and you can't really not cover all of them here. Just to give a highlight of some of the issues that that come across when you think about corporate governance. Can I have a monthly performance dashboard? not even a monthly one. I keep saying a month is too long. A week, a milestone week. Can I check what has happened within the week within the law firm? Can I see where we are in terms of performance of everybody? Can I see what have we achieved, have we not achieved? Because there are milestones towards a bigger goal. The bigger goal for us is actually a 3-year goal. It's not a 1-year goal. But can I be able to look at my monthly dashboard and see week by week, what are we achieving? 2026, what have we achieved? All the way to my 3-year goal, and making it quite a ritual to be able to review this. You know, we always told, even from a personal capacity, it's important to also have meetings with yourself, with your money, with your goals, and all manner of things. Again, the business requires this sort of engagement. So I'll hand it over to my colleague Esther to now take us through now to the practicalities of what we mean by a minimum viable governance framework. We can really talk about what has gone wrong, but I think the idea and the essence of this webinar is how can we start from a minimum level. We are not going through what those companies that are listed in the Nairobi Stock Exchange are going through, but I as John, or I as Thomas, first of all, Thomas, sometimes professionals forget the business side of things because they're so busy being the professional, they're so busy being the lawyer, going to court and all manner of things. But if you don't cater to the business side around it, which means it's a lot of administration work, setting up structures and governance frameworks, then we might miss what exactly we opened a law firm for. So Esther, I'll allow you to just step in so that you can take us through the minimum viable governance toolkit or framework that can help our businesses move to the next level. I don't know whether you require my slides or you just share from your end.
You can. Thank you so much. You can keep sharing so that I can use from your side. Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay. I think
sorry,
you have.
Sorry, just a little bit. Just a little bit. Let me go back. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. I think they have disappeared.
Oh, sorry. Can you see them? Let me just try again. Apologies for that small mishap. Let me just share them again.
Okay.
Good to go?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. So so we are going to discuss, and we are going to even have a few questions, like 4 questions, to help us think about this governance framework, and especially these 5 pillars that are on your screens right now. So I'm just going to go through them, even though Modoni has already discussed them in depth, but our questions that are following up next are going to help us understand each of these. So there's the decision governance. As you said, there must be a hierarchy of how decisions are made. There must be a structure when it comes to decision making in the business. Then the cash governance is, as Modoni has discussed, when it comes to the cash of the business and your own personal cash, is there a separation? How do you deal with that? Also, people governance, when it comes to employees, do you have contracts? Do you have contracts with them? Do they know their job description? Do they know the procedures of the company? When it comes to maybe asking for going for leave, do they just walk out of the door and just are there rules and are there terms that govern the people in your business? Then risk and compliance governance, are you complying with the law when it comes to whatever sector it is? What laws apply to you, and are you complying? Then when it comes to accountability, do you have those reviews to sit and see that this is how we've performed in this quarter or in this week, this is what we are supposed to do, this is what we didn't do, and so on. So most of that has been discussed already, so I'm just going to go to the questions where you can rate your corporate governance in your business. Rate yourself using these 4 questions. I think Mudani, you can stop sharing because now the slides have the answers. Yes. Yeah, I'll just use my own without sharing, and as I can just ask you the questions, and as I read for you the options, you can note something down, you can note your answer down, and then we'll come back to it and see whether you answered correctly, where you are at when it comes to corporate governance. So I'll start with the first question. You can note somewhere down your answer without saying it first until we do the 4 questions, then we'll come back to it and discuss the answers. So the first question is, you receive 800,000 Kenya shillings today in your business. What do you do first? Do you A, pay suppliers, or B, clear salaries? Do you C, repay personal loans, or D, buy stock, or do you check cash forecast in your business? So there are those 5 options. Do you pay suppliers, clear salaries, repay personal loans, buy stock, or check cash forecast when your business receives 800,000 today? Hoping you've noted down your response or your answer to that. Then the next question is, between yourself as the employer and your employee, salary has been agreed via WhatsApp. There's no written contract. And then at some point, the employee is removed from the company WhatsApp group. Are you legally safe? Is it a yes, a no, or depends? Yeah, so the salary was agreed via WhatsApp. There was no written contract. Then the employee is fired and removed from the company WhatsApp group. Are you legally safe? Yes, no, or does it depend? Then the third question, your SME collects customer phone numbers and payroll data. Do data protection obligations apply to your SME? Do they apply only to large companies, only to banks, or do they apply to every data controller? If your SME collects customer phone numbers, payroll data, and other data, do data protection obligations apply? Or do they only apply to large companies, only banks, or every data controller? Then the last question, the manager has failed to file statutory returns. Who is exposed? Is it the manager? Is it the accountant? Or is it the director? If the manager fails to file statutory returns, who is exposed? Is it the manager, the accountant, or the director? Yes, so I am hoping you have, I think, yeah, those are the only questions that we have. I'm hoping that you have noted down your answer. And then now we're going to go to the questions. Mudani, you can share the slides so that we can discuss each answer and why is that the correct answer when it comes to corporate governance.
Should we hear the answers before we share?
Okay, we can hear from the participants. The first question was, yes, you receive 800,000 Kenya shillings today. What do you do first? And I've given the options. So maybe someone can unmute and tell us what answer did they give on that first question. Maiburu Mwangi, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. So for me, I would invest the money since I don't have any debts. I don't have goods to buy and all. So I'll put it somewhere.
Okay. Okay,
Thank
so you chose invest buy stock. That was the investment answer. Okay, thank you for that. Maybe we can hear another answer on that. So yes, Mudani, are you speaking?
No.
Oh, okay. Thomas, if you could tell us what you said in that question.
Thank you. I would invest the money since
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. We can answer that question before we move on to the rest. So some of the options were to pay suppliers, clear salaries, repay personal loans, buy stock, check cash forecast. And as from the answers that we've gotten from Maiburu and Thomas, they chose investing that money, probably buy stock or do something, some other investment with that. Actually, the correct answer here would be to check your cash forecast. This is the answer because if first of all, if you said anything else, whether it's repay personal loans, you are not operating structurally, because in this case, if you get that 800,000 today, it does not necessarily mean that your business is healthy. First of all, what you have to do is you might maybe have a bill due next week and it's 1 million Kenya shillings and you've just spent your 800,000 to buy stock. But so if you spend the money without first checking the forecast, you won't be able to pay those future bills. But the first thing you must do before doing anything else, before paying salaries, it is to check the forecast. You must check the financial plan to ensure that the cash is allocated wisely. So what is the financial plan? What am I supposed to do first for this business at this point? Because the businesses are different, and maybe in my business, what I need to do first is to pay this bill. So you must first check the financial plan and ensure that the cash is allocated wisely, rather than spending it first on whatever maybe comes to mind. Or, okay, I think I should start with paying bills. I think I should start with paying salaries, but you haven't checked the plan first to see what should I do first concerning my business. Okay, so cash visibility is governance in this case, and it means that you have responsible management and control. Yeah, you know where your money stands. If you don't know where your money stands in your business, then you're not really governing your business. So you must know where your money stands, what is the plan, and then do that. If you've paid all your bills, you've paid all your salaries, you've paid yourself, then maybe the next thing is to do something else. Whatever it is, the financial plan is, that is what you're supposed to look at first. We can go to the next question, which was question number 2 was, yes, I think the slides have gone, but the second question was salary. The salary was between the employer and the employee. The salary was agreed via WhatsApp. There was no written contract. Maybe the employee was fired from the company and removed from the WhatsApp groups. As the employer, are you legally safe? Does it depend? Is it a yes or is it a no? We can get someone and see what they answered. Lydia, are you there? I think, okay. Okay, we can just, I don't think she's there. I don't know if I'm seeing everyone from my side. Yeah, okay. So we'll just answer this question. So if you have no written contract, but maybe if the salary was just agreed by WhatsApp, the employer texted and was like, will you take the salary of 60,000, and the employee was like, no, I want 65, and the employer was like, okay, 65 it is, and that's the agreement. There was nothing else, no written contract. And then later on, maybe the employer, the way in which they let go of the employees, just remove them from the WhatsApp group. So is this employer safe? The answer would be, it depends, because for, recently, as there's a decision by the Employment and Labor Relations Court that said that these agreements in the WhatsApp platform, are actually binding contracts. So if you had agreed on salaries via WhatsApp, it is actually a binding contract. I can go to court and say, no, we had an agreement, we had a contract, even if it was not written and had all the other terms and everything. There was a binding contract where we agreed on you employing me and the salary and everything. But now this is very high risk legally, because what about the other terms? You know, when you have an employment contract, there are terms concerning whether it's gross misconduct, whether it's your job description, whether it's leave days, leave pay, termination of the contract, how do we terminate it? There are so many terms in an employment contract. So if you don't have an employment contract, these terms are going to be kind of vague. In the moment, I can just wake up in the morning and say, I'm not coming to work, and I have gotten work elsewhere. And there were no terms whether how I should terminate my employment or my employment contract. So I just woke up and decided not to go, or the employer just woke up and decided to fire the employee on the spot. This is very risky, as I've said, because this employee can go to court. They were removed maybe from the WhatsApp groups and they were fired without notice, without a hearing, without show cause letters and warnings, and whether it was maybe a disciplinary issues, there was no hearing held. This employee can go to court and they can get compensated, because even if the agreement was just via WhatsApp, they are protected by the employment laws. So it's safe to have a written contract rather than just deciding, I'm not going to say informally, because WhatsApp is, it's according to the courts now, it's not really informal, because I read a contract. I will share the name of the case. Let me confirm, because it's not really informal as of now. It's not really, if I do a thumbs up on something that you've said, I have agreed to whatever you've said, and that is binding. So I'm not going to say it's really informal, but yeah, it's very risky, and it's good to have terms written very well, and everyone understands them, and the procedures are followed when it comes to all these other things, whether it's disciplinary hearings and termination and whatever. Yes. Then the next question, I'll just go through it because I'm seeing we are short on time. Your SME collects customer phone numbers and payroll data. Do data protection obligations apply, or do they just apply to large companies? So the answer here is they do apply to every data controller, as long as you are handling personal data, you're handling data that belongs to individuals, you're handling personal data, be it just recording phone numbers, names, ID numbers, payroll information, that's bank accounts numbers and details. You are handling data, so data protections do apply, obligations do apply to you, and you are supposed to comply with the Data Protection Act. So when it comes to whether you have decided maybe to you have an event as a law firm or as an organization and you want to promote it, and you just decide, okay, there are a few people that left their numbers here the other day. Maybe you go to the reception and tell them, okay, let me see the visitors, and you take all the numbers there and you decide to send text messages or WhatsApp messages to all those people in that list, and you send them that information about your event or your farm, or we do provide this and this services, we do this and this, we have this going on, and so on. That is a violation, because none of those people agreed to have such messages sent to them. Whether or not you are a small company, a small business, you are supposed to follow the Data Protection Act and the data protection laws. So if you do something like that without the consent of these people and just send them promotional messages without having been given that authorization to, they did not agree to being sent such messages. Maybe they gave you their phone numbers, and when they were giving you told them, this is just for record purposes. You didn't say anything about promotional messages, then you don't have their consent to send such messages, and that's a violation. So if you are a company and you handle such, whether it's phone numbers, names, whatever it is, then you're supposed to comply with the data protection laws. So the ODPC oversight applies whether you're a small business or a large business or a bank, whatever it is. Then the last question was the manager in your company fails to file statutory returns. Who is exposed? Is it the manager? Is it the accountant, or is it the director? And the correct question, the correct answer was the director, because as we've said, when it comes to oversight responsibility, that belongs to the director. So you cannot just delegate work and not have anything to do with that work. As we say, delegation is not abdication. So you've just delegated. You're not really letting go of that work. It's not that you don't have anything to do with it anymore just because you've delegated. So and I think Modoni had mentioned, if your accountant fails to do something, you are exposed as the director of this company. If your manager refuses to or steals money from clients or something, you are exposed. Someone mishandles something, you are exposed. So I will go to, as I had explained about people governance, this is about employment, especially to have written contracts and have procedures that are followed, especially follow the Employment Act. If it says this is a procedure for termination, make sure that procedure is followed. Whether you only have one employee, make sure that you have given them a chance to be heard. You have done a fair termination. You have given them a notice. If not, you've given them notice pay. You have documented everything, all the procedures done. Whether it's poor performance, you've documented it. You've given chances for improvement. You've given an improvement plan. They have failed, so you have decided to terminate. You've given them a notice. You've given them a hearing. You've given them all these things as the law requires. And then, as I said, when it comes to the ODPC, ensuring that we are complying, and even other compliance governance, that is one of the ways to ensure that you are safe and you're not exposed is to have to renew my license, or as an advocate, I'm supposed to renew my practicing certificate. I know it's yearly, so I have that written somewhere that at this point, I'm supposed to renew my practicing certificate. At this point, which for if you're a data controller, you've registered, your certificate is renewed after every 24 months. So I know at this time I'm renewing my certificate as a data controller or a data handler, and all those things. Whatever it is, I know I'm not exposed. At least I have somewhere I can follow up and know what I'm supposed to do at what point. And especially when it comes to this WhatsApp, as I've said, ensuring that in as much as you're doing things on WhatsApp, whatever it is you're doing, make sure you're careful, because it can be binding, and ensuring that there are good records of it outside of WhatsApp, and also ensuring that there's controlled access to that WhatsApp, whether it's a WhatsApp group, who has access to what. If it's a group where we are sharing information that not everyone in the company should have, are you putting everyone in the company in that WhatsApp group so that they can see all that information that not everyone really has to see, especially when it comes to personal data. Only the people that it's necessary for them to have that data, those are the only people that are supposed to have it. So access control, whether it's WhatsApp groups, whether it's passwords on laptops, and whatever it is. And also doing compliance reviews, whether it's every quarter, to ensure that you are complying with the law. Yeah, so at that point, I'll give the platform back to Modoni to conclude. Mudhoni, can you hear me?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, yes, yes. I need to unmute my mic for that to happen. I think a lot has been said. A lot has been said, and just to have an overarching view, when we really think about our businesses, and as I said, even when I'm relating to Thomas, who is also in the legal profession, Lida is also in the legal profession. When we really think about our businesses from a legal, and the principles don't change, whether I'm in the professional space, whether I'm in the merchandise space, whatever that looks like, the principles of business really don't change. And a lot of times we find ourselves, we are really putting some key things up above the ladder and we forgot the elements of, basic CG, just basic CG. If I look at, as I said, if I just give an example from my own profession, I look at our business here, what are the key fundamentals I'm supposed to understand? Number one, if I have employees, what does the onboarding process look like? What does that look like, so that if I'm not there for the next 3 months, anybody who would take over that role is able to understand from A to point Z, this is exactly what happens when new people or personnel are being onboarded into this organization. What is the relationship between that person and the organization? There's an employment contract. And taking the time to understand that we also need other professionals. Maybe HR is not my first point of call, but understanding that I probably need somebody to draft for me my HR policies. I can sit down as a lawyer and do that, but also I can also outsource that to be done. The same way, if I'm trying to get some software for my laptops, I'm not going to be the person doing. I have to buy that service so that I'm able to ensure that all the laptops in the office are well catered for. So we delve into a lot of staircases. We start with the sales. We need to get the customers into the business. We need to get the marketing right. So you're doing your heavy social media marketing. We get the staff right, because now, like when I started the law firm with our partners, it was that time when before COVID. So that means that we still need this person who goes around to the courts to file documents. Nowadays, we have with the digitalization of the court system, now we can file online. Then you need to understand that you need somebody to live in the office to go to a physical court, or you need somebody to send around to serve court documents. So we would ensure that the staff are well onboarded for that process. We haven't still got it to the compliance issue or the CG issue. Then if we have stock, if you're in the merchandise space, then ensuring that you have the stock for that. Or maybe you want to expand from one region to another region. You're thinking about your branding. You're thinking about equipment, basic office equipment, what I'm saying, laptops and all manner of things. You're thinking about, how do I also enhance my branding? Maybe let me have a website. But then legal, as I keep saying, has always been put under door number 9. And that's where corporate governance basically falls, ensuring that there's some form of structure within the organization, so that this structure takes care of sales. It also takes care of the marketing elements, the staffing element, the branding, marketing, and all that, where you have a door that becomes the overarch foundation for your entire business. And I think part of the question that I can see, John, that you're asking, half the time this is not the most great part of the business. It's boring, but it's very necessary for an organization to actually put its houses in order. And I think when I speak to business people, I see a lot that the corporate governance issue is door number 9. And I'm like, why is it door number 9? We are supposed to be at the foundation level when all these things are being set up. So that will bring me to the end of this particular webinar. And before I end it and talk about the SME governance program and how that looks like, there's one issue that we have not touched, and that is the tax element. And we are going to have a guest that is going to talk to us about the tax element. How do you structure in terms of what we call tax planning? Because even as an SME, one of the key things that affects elements is a tax. And it is not for this particular webinar. We're going to have it in another session. And especially right now, when everything is now being told, you have to validate your expenses and your incomes pursuant to the notice that was given last year. So tax is also another important element when you think about compliance under the umbrella of corporate governance. Before I get to the last session of this, so allow me to just look at the questions so that we can get to that, and I think we can manage to wind this down. I think we are way past time. So I think John, you're asking what does company policy say about recruitment of employees? This is assuming there's a company policy. Half the time we don't have company policies that tell us what we are supposed to be doing. We are playing it by the year. That's why I said you give somebody the work to come, start at the corner, give them a tool, a laptop, and they start working. But of course, there's no company policy saying that you're going to employ anybody via WhatsApp. That's why I said it's the business owner who makes it so informal, and carrying it from the background of, let's say, from where Lydia and myself were. We were given contracts. We were given contracts of employment, so that they tell us this is exactly our rights. There was a company policy. You were told this is where you go get the company policy, and then this is what you need to do and need to understand for that. But most times when we think about some entrepreneurs in the small and medium enterprise space, it's non-existent. So there is no policy saying that we are going to hire on WhatsApp. So I can imagine, as you said, that calls for chaos and directors hiring for WhatsApp. That's why I said there must be some level of a standard operating procedure. How do you operate? How do you operate your organization? And I said that is not the rosy part of the business, but it's a very critical element of the business. I, as Thomas, can I sit down and draft a bare minimum company employment policy or HR policy that provides a few things? Like, for instance, I think when we were trying to get a HR policy, there are certain elements that I cannot copy paste from another industry. Like if I took a company's HR policy who are dealing in the fast moving consumer goods, there are things about their policy that is not going to apply to me. One of the things, like for instance, in a law firm that would probably lead to summary dismissal is when you take Mudhoni's stamp and then you have commissioned documents, and then the next minute I knew the documents were either perpetuating something that was illegal. And so that is some of the things that call for fine-tuning and tailor-making the HR policy to the realities of your business. I think they also, Thomas, you're asking to be shared for the case. I think that was done. I can't see any other comment within that. I don't know this comment from John and forwarding them to HR for processing. Yes, the element of taking it from the WhatsApp to forwarding from that. There must be, the HR element has a start and an end. There is, first of all, the identification, coming to the interviewing stage, the recruitment, and all that. Can that process be able to identify that in a proper pathway so that it doesn't lead to so many problems moving forward? I can't see any other comment on that, so allow me to just share my last slide. So it is out of this that it is out of this that we have what we call a founders cohort offer. A founders cohort offer technically means that we are happy to do a governance diagnostic audit on your organization. If you're in this call, and I think there's some people who had registered as well, it's going to be at the price of 10,000 Kenya shillings. Just to have an audit of exactly what is happening within your organization, giving you a proper, clear vision of how that looks like. So a couple of reviews that are going to take place. And this is going to culminate into our SME governance clinic that is going to happen on the 30th of April. And of course, part of this 10,000 is going to go to that. And if you need more details, we're happy to provide. I think you were able to furnish us with your email address. I hope you said yes to a couple of things from under data protection perspective, and we're able to share more information on this. So it's a long journey. Being an entrepreneur has a lot of its ups and downs, but I think it's also one of the greatest journeys. And I think one of the key things that I've learned, even myself, as we are running this law firm, is that we're always students in this particular process. So ladies and gentlemen, we are way past our time. So let me see whether there's any last comment before we wind this down. Do please reach out to us if you'd want us to do a diagnostic for your audit for your company, and then we may be able to do that to just do the next steps from that. You may use tech to enforce policy. Absolutely. You do that. Also make sure, even as you use one of the things under the Data Protection Act is not to use algorithmic consent, where now, what I mean by that is not consent. You're trying to, like, let me give an example. In the digital lending space, one of the key things that most of these credit scoring tools do is they can do that without the human interface. So when that happens, you sort of don't have a right to a redress when that happens, because everything has been done on that. So the law provides a sense that there must be sort of a human interface, even as we are saying that tech can help us enforce some elements of our policies. Because somebody has the right to go to court under a constitutional provision and say, look, under the law of fair administrative action, I wasn't given a point to say, it's called the rules of natural justice. I must be heard, you must be heard, then a determination is made. So even as we do that, is to ensuring that how we structure the tech for that to happen, to enforce a couple of policies, that they also aware that there is what we call natural justice. Natural justice just means I can be heard, you can be heard, and then a determination is made. So even as we use tech, it's also there are elements that cannot apply to completely 100%. Yes, so in fact, if you see, like, a lot of times, even in companies, even if they have a data protection policy, they will have the notice on their website, you will still be referenced to a human, a data protection officer, to go through that with you, and then now decisions are able to be made from that. Whether you are successful in moving it forward or not, you'll normally see that those decisions end up in the office of the Data Protection Commissioner. So yes, in a nutshell. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we have now come to the end of our session. As I said, if you're interested in for us doing for you a diagnostic audit for your governance, we'll be more than happy to do that. We'll share finer details, kindly allowing us to use the emails that you used for registration of this webinar. And all is said and done, we do wish you a great afternoon. So as I said, we'll look out for the next webinar. We'll also be dealing with the tax element, very key and critical when you think about compliance in the general landscape of corporate governance. So do have yourself a good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, until we see you in the next webinar. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for attending.